Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Bryan with another knife review for you. Today we have my full review of the Steel Will Resident. This was recently featured in a comparison video with the Real Steel Metamorph, and you guys can go back and look at that. I'll link down below, but now I've had more time with it and want to do a full review of just this knife all by its lonesome because I think it deserves it. It's a very, very cool knife. The Resident comes in two different flavors. It comes in this aluminum version with a frame or liner lock, for $60, or you can get a titanium and carbon fiber frame lock version for $85. Both of these are made in China, but slightly different than Steel Will's other Chinese offerings. The D2 steel blade is common to both of them. They're both identical blades, which is common to Steel Wills made in China, but most of the Chinese Steel Wills are of this FRN sort of variety, plasticky, sort of variety with D2 steel, where these are either, as I said, aluminum or titanium and carbon fiber. The knife design itself, I think, is pretty cool. It's a knife that kind of blurs the lines between an EDC knife and a gentleman's folder. My 5 knives for $250 video, which I'm going to link down below. I guess there's going to be a lot of links down below. This was one I chose because it could fill both categories. It could fill the role as a smallish EDC knife and could also, a smaller, lighter EDC knife, and also fill the roles of a gentleman's kind of folder when you're dressed up. Very, very cool design. I do very much like it. Let's get into the specs and all that stuff. Get all that stuff out of the way so you guys can learn a bit more about this. As usual, these are 1-inch squares on this particular background. We have an overall length of just over 8 inches, a blade length of dead on 3.5 inches. You have a blade thickness of 0.12 inches, so pretty thin, but again, still in that EDC sort of size. A lot of gentlemen's folders have thinner blades than this, so that's kind of nice to have a somewhat robust blade thickness. You have a weight of 3.2 ounces, so pretty light. It's a pretty light knife, and a handle thickness also pretty thin, 0.42 inches, which I think is always important to me in a kind of gentleman's folder sort of knife, because you don't usually have as big of pockets available to you when you're wearing a suit or something like that, which for some reason people demand that I do. I don't know. I think they just think I dress up nice. I think they think I clean up nice and make me wear a suit occasionally for no reason that I have. No, it's because I'm a comedian and sometimes you have to. Size comparisons, let's get into that. First of all, let's compare it to some knives that I think also I use in this same sort of category. This is another knife that could be called a gentlemanly sort of folder that can be used as an EDC. We have the Kershaw Dividend M390, but all the dividends are about the same size. We have another knife that kind of blurs those lines. Oh, that was a big throw there. We have the Ontario Rat Model 2. You can see this is a bit larger than that for sure. And the aforementioned knife I compared it to, we have the Real Steel Metamorph. Almost exactly the same length as the Metamorph. Again, you guys can watch the comparison video between these two. And we have, let's, just for consistency's sake, let's do the 3 that I usually use. The Spyderco Delica, the Spyderco PM2. So it's actually in length almost the same length as the PM2, but it's much thinner in the pocket, much lower profile in the pocket. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, is that a word? It is now. Your Chris Reeve Large Sabenza. So again, you can see it's a fairly good sized knife in length, but it is very light and small in the pocket. Now let's get into aesthetics on this thing. Yeah, it's not much of a difference in price between, you're talking 60 versus 15 bucks more to get carbon and titanium. I got the aluminum one specifically for the purpose of doing the comparison with the Metamorph, because it's also aluminum. I will say definitely the $85 carbon fiber tie frame lock version is much prettier. This is kind of, I think this looks good. I love the overall shape and design of it. I think that blade looks handsome as hell. I do really like that. I like the overall shape of the handle. But, you know, this little wavy pattern on the aluminum is Love it or leave it. And it works great for sure. It is a very well textured aluminum handle, but it's kind of this wavy, weird thing. It's grown on me. I do like it fine. It has these nice blue standoffs. I kind of wish those were in a more neutral color. And speaking of colors, this is the only color this comes in. You don't get to choose between multiple colors like you do on lots of Steel Wheels products. It's black or carbon fiber and titanium. So yeah, I do like the aesthetics of it. Okay, I do. This is kind of this snake skinny sort of weird pattern is the only real downside I give to it. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And as I'm noticing now, as I'm doing this, I've been carrying this thing a lot lately, and yeah, some stuff catches in there, as you can see. So you have to blow it off with an air hose or something, I guess. I don't know how I'm going to get all that off, but anywho, little things, but overall aesthetically, I think it's fine. Quality is excellent. I've had no issues with this knife whatsoever, and I've used it quite a bit because, as I said, it kind of fills two categories, so I wind up grabbing it a lot lately. When I do my next EDC update, this might be in it. I haven't looked at my obsessive stats where I keep track of what I carry every day, but I have been grabbing this a lot. It's just a useful knife that looks kind of classy. So I do really like, even with the weird patterns, it still looks pretty classy. And when I take it out, people think it's a lot more expensive than it is. So I do like that a lot. Let's get into the blade specifics. We have a flat grind, fairly high. We have this nice swedge here, which gives it a fairly robust tip, which for a knife this thin, which I think is good. It's not, I mean, I wouldn't do any prying with it or anything like that. It's not like a batoning sort of blade by any means, but it's a pretty robust blade for this thinness, and it slices pretty well. I don't really have a problem with it. It came sharp as hell out of the box. I had no issues there. D2 steel also have no issues with in a knife this price. I know there's always people who say, oh, D2 is going to corrode because it's not stainless. It's not technically stainless, but it's damn close to it. And I don't know if I'm just nicer to my knives than the average person, but I've never had any corrosion on D2 blades. So, and I don't oil them or anything. D2, I just, some I will. Like an M4, I'll keep it oiled up. But D2, I just don't. And it works fine. I've had no issues with it at all. It's a good workaday steel. I very much like it. And it slices well. Like I said, the point is very good for stabbing sort of tasks. It's a very pointy tip without being so pointy that you're worried about snapping it off. So again, great all around EDC knife. And I wouldn't even call this light duty. Where the Metamorph, I would definitely call light duty. This, I wouldn't. So that's very good. Now, in ergonomics, also, no problems whatsoever. This pattern, whether you like the look of it or not, it does grip really well. And another cool little grip feature on this, there's no jimping on top of the blade, but you can see it deploys by this, they call it a thumb disc, but it's really more of a thumb quadrangle, triangle, I don't know. I wasn't good at geometry. But what's nice, it has jimping on the side of it for the deployment, but also when you want to use it for more, fine duty tasks, you can just put your thumb on the side of it and you have a little jimping there to move up. I really like that. I think that's a very cool feature of it. Yeah, and the pocket clip doesn't cause any hot spots whatsoever. It's a very low riding pocket clip. I mean, I literally, I'm squeezing as hard as I can right now and I can't even tell that pocket clip is there. Very, very good. And also the frame lock gives you a little bit of, or liner lock, sorry, gives you a little bit of jimping there too that also helps with the grip. Very grippy for an aluminum frame knife. It's very, very good. Carry also, as I said, it's pretty thin, only a little over 0.4 inches. Deep carry pocket clip. I think I'm going to start clapping every time a knife company provides me with a deep carry pocket clip. And it's a good pocket clip. Provides the right amount of tension, but doesn't catch on your pocket pulling it in and out. Still very easy to get in and out. I wish the screws were recessed, but I'll say that about everything, and almost nobody does it. Only the really high-end stuff really seems to do it on a regular basis. So I can't really whine too much about that. But yet I do. Yeah, it carries very well. It's very light, as I said, 3.2 ounces. And as you can see, when it's closed, it doesn't take up a lot of room in your pocket. It's not a flipper like a lot of these are, so there's no flipper tab sticking out to jab stuff in your pocket. Very excellent carrying knife. It carries very, very, very well. Deployment, also very good. As I said, it has this thumb disc on it, and it runs on one phosphor bronze bushing and one Teflon bushing, which normally would make me raise an eyebrow and be like, ugh. But it works really well. It really does. I mean, it flips bright out every time. The detent is superb, and this thumb disc works very, very well. No matter what name they call it, if they are geometrically incorrect, they still got it correct in the design. It works great. Never had a problem with getting it in and out. And the frame lock sticks up just enough that it doesn't interfere with the ergonomics much. You don't get a hot spot from it, but you can very easily grab it and close it. It's not quite a fall shutty kind of thing, but it isn't too far off that. As you can see, I just had to give it a little flick and it closed down. So I have no problems with the deployment whatsoever. I think it's excellent. Especially, remember, this is only $60. And that's kind of my conclusion. For $60, this is a really nice knife. It's a very nice knife for $60. Steel Will is knocking it out of the park with their lower end stuff. I mean, like I still have the Modus here. You know, also a great knife. They're really knocking it down with their lower end Chinese made stuff. As far as filling categories, they're doing a great job. Because I could see this being, if you only have $60 and you want to own one knife that you carry all the time, no matter what you're doing, this isn't a bad choice. It really isn't. And what better can you say about it? The only downside I would say is I might spend the extra $15 and get the titanium carbon fiber frame lock, because it just looks so much prettier. And yeah, I think if I had to do it over again, I'd get the Thai carbon frame lock. But that's not a knock on this knife. That's just saying I like this so much that I know it was worth it to spend the extra money to get the nicer version of it. But other than that, great job, Steel Will. I really, really like it. I recommend it highly, and especially, you know, if you would prefer a liner lock to a Thai frame lock, or you just have some religious hatred of carbon fiber or something, I could see why you would choose this one. It's a great knife, and highly recommend it. I've been Bryan. Have a good one.